In a quiet room somewhere in the world, a man sits across from another man. There is no shouting, no threats, no visible force. Yet when the conversation ends, one of them walks away convinced that the decision was his own even though it was carefully guided. This is not magic. This is not manipulation in the criminal sense. This is psychology. And it works because the human brain does not experience reality as it truly is. It experiences a filtered version shaped by emotion, memory, expectation, and belief. This documentary is not about turning you into a controller of minds. It is about revealing the invisible forces that already influence you every single day. Because power that is unseen is always the most dangerous. And awareness is the only real defense. Before we go further, understand this clearly. The knowledge shared here is for education, self-protection, and awareness. Psychological understanding should never be used to harm, deceive, or exploit others. When power is used without ethics, it destroys both sides. Now let us begin with a story. In 1973, a group of ordinary people were invited to participate in a study. They were told it was about learning and memory. Nothing dangerous, nothing extreme. But behind the scenes, the experiment was about obedience. Participants were instructed to administer electric shocks to another person whenever they answered incorrectly. The shocks increased in intensity. The person screaming was an actor. The shocks were fake, but the participants did not know that. What shocked the world was not the experiment. It was the result. Most people continued administering shocks even when they believed they were causing serious harm. Why? Because an authority figure calmly told them to continue. No force, no threats. Just confidence and perceived legitimacy. This is the authority effect. And it reveals something uncomfortable. The human brain often confuses confidence with correctness and authority with truth. From childhood we are trained to obey tone, posture, titles, and symbols. A uniform, a confident voice, a calm instruction. These bypass rational analysis and activate automatic compliance. This is not weakness. It is survival programming. In early human history, questioning authority too slowly could mean death. So the brain evolved shortcuts. In modern life, these shortcuts are exploited constantly. In offices, in media, in advertising, and online spaces. When someone speaks with certainty, our brain relaxes. It assumes thinking has already been done. This is where false power begins. Pause here for a moment. If this content is helping you see the world more clearly, take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Engagement helps this message reach people who need awareness, not control. Now consider this question. Have you ever agreed to something simply because it was presented confidently, even when later you realized it did not fully make sense? That moment was not stupidity. It was psychology. Let us move deeper. Power does not always look like dominance. Sometimes it looks like generosity. A free sample, a small favor, a simple act of kindness. The brain interprets this as debt. This is called reciprocity. When someone gives us something even if we did not ask for it, we feel a subtle obligation to return the favor. This mechanism built trust in early societies. Cooperation kept tribes alive, but today it is used strategically. Salespeople, politicians, influencers all understand this. A small gift creates a big opening. The dangerous part is that the obligation is emotional, not logical. You may know you owe nothing. Yet your body feels pressure. That pressure is power. Now imagine a situation. A colleague helps you with a small task. Days later they ask you to support a decision you disagree with. Saying no feels uncomfortable. Not because it is wrong, but because the brain wants balance. That is reciprocity at work. True power is not forcing yes. It is making no feel difficult. But awareness changes everything. Once you recognize the mechanism, you regain choice. You can pause. You can separate gratitude from obligation. And power dissolves. Another illusion of power comes from framing. The facts do not change. Only the presentation does. Yet decisions shift dramatically. Consider this. A medical treatment has a 90% survival rate. Sounds reassuring. Now hear it framed differently. A 10% death rate. Same data. Completely different emotional impact. The brain reacts to emotional meaning before logic. Framing exploits that sequence. Media headlines, political speeches, and online content all rely on it. This does not mean framing is evil. It means it is powerful. And power without awareness becomes manipulation. When you hear information, ask yourself what is being emphasized and what is being hidden. What emotion is this triggering fear, urgency, pride, guilt? Once you identify the emotion, you regain clarity. Now let us talk about scarcity. Scarcity creates urgency. Urgency shuts down reasoning. Limited time offers exclusive access, disappearing opportunities. These signals tell the brain act now or lose forever. In ancient times, scarcity meant survival. If food was scarce, hesitation meant death. The brain still reacts the same way even when the threat is artificial. This is why people buy things they do not need, enter relationships they are unsure about, or agree to terms they did not fully read. Scarcity does not create value. It creates pressure. And pressure feels like power when you control it. The defense is simple but difficult. Slow down. Urgency is rarely real. When something demands instant action, it usually benefits the person making the demand. Now step back and see the pattern. Authority, reciprocity, framing, scarcity. None of these require intelligence to work. They bypass intelligence. They operate below conscious awareness. This is why even highly educated people can be influenced. Intelligence does not equal immunity. Awareness does. At this point, if you are finding value in this documentary, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about which psychological effect surprised you most. Your interaction supports deeper educational content like this. Let us go even deeper into the mind. The brain craves consistency. Once we commit publicly or internally, we feel pressure to behave consistently with that commitment. This is called commitment bias. A small yes leads to a bigger yes. Agreeing to a minor request increases the likelihood of agreeing to a major one later. This is not because you changed your values. It is because your identity is now involved. People rarely want to see themselves as inconsistent. So they protect the image even when it costs them. This is why contracts start with small agreements. This is why online platforms ask for tiny actions first. Each step builds psychological momentum. The defense is self-permission to change your mind. Consistency is not morality. Adaptation is intelligence. Now let us address the most misunderstood aspect of psychological power. Silence. Silence makes people uncomfortable. In conversation, the person who tolerates silence longer often holds more power. Silence creates space. Space creates pressure. The other person fills it, often revealing more than they intended. This is not manipulation. It is a human reaction to social tension. We are wired to maintain connection. Silence feels like disconnection. Awareness allows you to use silence ethically or defend against it. You can choose not to rush. You can let pauses exist without filling them with concessions. Now here is the critical truth. None of these mechanisms make someone evil. They make them human. The danger lies not in knowledge but in intent. This documentary does not exist to teach control. It exists to remove illusion. Because the most powerful individual in any room is not the loudest. It is the most aware. When you understand how influence works, you stop being reactive. You stop confusing emotion with truth. You stop mistaking pressure for urgency and confidence for correctness. And something else happens. You become harder to manipulate. Not aggressive. Not closed. Just clear. This clarity changes how you move through the world. You listen more carefully. You pause before agreeing. You ask better questions. You choose rather than react. That is real power. Before we close, there is one final reminder. Psychological knowledge is like fire. It can cook food or burn homes. Use it to protect yourself, communicate clearly, and understand others. Never to exploit weakness or fear. If this documentary helped sharpen your awareness, take a moment now to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts. Your support allows more content that prioritizes ethics, intelligence, and mental defense. The mind is not fragile. It is adaptive, but it must be understood. And once you see the invisible, you can never be controlled by it again. This is not the end. It is the beginning of conscious awareness.